Well, it's Friday and time for news. BT on Metro TV is 12 noon and it's time for us to give you updates of the news making rounds in and around the world. My name is Ania Fompofola. Join us on Facebook as Metro TV Ghana and we're streaming live there. Also on channel 277 DSTV. We'll take a look at the headlines of the stories coming up. With Ghana seeking bailout from the IMF and labor agitations on demand for payment for 20% cost of living allowance, what are experts' advice to stakeholders? We'll be speaking to these experts for some more on these updates. Now, some senior high school face double dilemmas. Teacher strike continues and food shortage also looms. In news from elsewhere, former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe reported dead after suffering gunshots while on a campaign platform. And we'll bring you the update. Sad one there. May his soul rest in peace. I am Ania Fompo for the news now in detail. President Akufo-Addo says government's decision to turn to the IMF is to help repair the country's public finance in the short term. He, however, gave an assurance that government will continue to institute the needed changes anchored on its vision to achieve a Ghana beyond aid. He was addressing some diplomats who had been commissioned to represent Ghana in various countries on Thursday.
All the countries of the world are working to return themselves to a state of normalcy following the devastating impact of the pandemic of COVID-19, whose effects have been exacerbated by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Economies have been plunged into recessions, businesses have collapsed, lives and livelihoods have been disrupted. Food and fuel prices have escalated dramatically as global and domestic inflationary pressures mount. Hopefully, sooner rather than later, the world will make up on lost time. In our case, we have decided to seek the collaboration of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, to repair in the short run our public finances, which have taken a severe hit in very recent times as a result. Whilst we continue to work on the medium to long-term structural changes that are at the heart of our goal of creating a Ghana beyond aid, that is building a resilient, robust Ghanaian economy. I'm confident that with determination, hard work, unity, and the proverbial Ghanaian sense of enterprise, we will succeed, we will make it, and indeed, this too shall pass.
Now, the question on the lips of many in relation to these labor agitations and the demand for 20% cost of living allowance is whether government will pay up even if it had financial muscle to do so at this point in time. Now, what should the conversation with the labor unions be like? We have been joined via Zoom by chartered financial economist and lecturer at the University of Education, Winneba, Ba Ayekusi, for more on this. But thank you for your time and you're welcome to Newsbeat. All right, so we're hoping to get Ba on the phone, but the conversation has been about whether or not government must at this point in time have certain priorities. Will these demands from labor unions be among government's top priorities? As and when we're able to raise Ba back on the line, we'll speak more on that. Now, 1 week, there has been calls for state officials to resign from their respective ministries and positions on what has been described as incompetence on their part. However, in the United Kingdom, a shake-up has been staged as Prime Minister Boris Johnson has resigned after calls on him to do so. He still remains in office, though, as Prime Minister.
In Ghana, there has been a call by some individuals, including the former President John Dramani Mahama, for some ministers to tender in their resignation letters over their incompetence to their various assigned ministries. Key among the calls for some ministers to resign is the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. As a result of his incompetence in economic management, the calls indicate. As if Ghana is the only country with calls for a state official to resign, the UK has seen a resignation of a state official, Boris Johnson, who resigned as a result of some corrupt dealings and breach of the COVID-19 protocols, aside appointing a minister who has been tagged with some accusations of sexual misconduct.
This was the parliamentary system that the British bequeathed to us in Ghana. How does it work? It works in this way. It does not have a written constitution, and it has a bicephalous executive. It has a queen who is the state's authority, but who is doing the substance of the executive. You can call it the ceremonial or the titular head. Queen Elizabeth, or any king or queen for that matter, is a titular head, and that's the ceremonial issues. The real executive power is with the Prime Minister. But who is the Prime Minister? The Prime Minister is a member of Parliament, and the Prime Minister is indirectly elected by the people. Why do we say he's indirectly elected? The British people go to the polls when it's election time to elect about 500 or 600 members of Parliament. There are two main political parties that contest in Britain: the Conservative Party, which is the Tory party, the right-wing party, and the Labour Party, which is the left-wing party. There are other parties, the Liberal Democrats, etc., but these are the two main parties. So, at the end of the parliamentary election, the party with the majority in Parliament, the leader of the party with the majority in Parliament is invited by the Queen, actually appointed by the Queen, to become the Prime Minister. And then he governs for a certain period. Now, this way it's instructive. When the Prime Minister comes into office, he does not have a fixed tenure, and he does not have an expiry date. So when he comes into office in 2000, the year 2000 for instance, whereas in Ghana we have election day every 7 December, 4 years, every 4 years 7 December is election day in Ghana. Britain doesn't have that. The parliamentary system doesn't have that. So when he comes into office, he governs and he rules and he holds executive power. And he does it until such time that something like what happened today happens. And then he may have to resign. So he can resign after 1 year, he can resign after 2 years, he can be forced out after 6 months, and if nothing happens until 5 years, then there is a general election.
Well, not he alone resigned as the Prime Minister, but some 50 others who served under his government before he, Boris Johnson, announced his resignation. Can same happen in Ghana?
The President's own Vice President, who is the chairman of the economic management, is an integral part of the calamity. So if anything at all, there should be a resignation by both the Vice President and the Finance Minister. If it were possible, the President himself should be leaving back. It's difficult to say everybody should go. So at least those two should actually not even have the moral authority to still be talking about presiding over the finances of this country.
Professor Yina, I want to tell you very good advice as a big brother, possibly a father, that being a member of the board or a trustee of an organization is a serious legal matter that impose the highest standards of fiduciary on you. You have responsibility for the financial management of the organization. You have responsibility for the procurement activities of the organization. And you have responsibility for legal and regulatory compliance of the organization. A breach of any of these have dire consequences. So for you to be alluding to the fact that all these responsibilities that are imposed on you as a member of the board are not being performed by you but by somebody else tells me you are not even qualified to be on that trustee board. So you are there as what? Professor Yina, the name. No responsibilities. He should just pray that this matter never goes to port and the board of directors are arraigned before a court of competent jurisdiction to answer for how they steered their fiduciary responsibilities to that cathedral. That at your age and your level, You are a sympathy. You are sitting there and they are using your name to drink soup. And you are happy to now come and tell us that, oh, me, I'm just there, and they are using my name and they are spending the money.
Well, now let's get on Zoom. We have a discussion with Jonathan Asante, political scientist who doubles as a lecturer at the University of Cape Coast. Jonathan, thank you for your time and good afternoon to you. Welcome to Newsbeat. Hello, Jonathan. Good afternoon to you.
Hello.
Yes, Jonathan. Good afternoon to you. Right. So, so the discussion has been, or calls has been on ministers who are not performing, especially starting from the finance minister, and people calling for their resignation or they be sacked. We've seen, you know, about 50 of ministers resigning under the auspices of Boris Johnson. And we're trying to do comparison. What is really different from us here, where when ministers know that they are underperforming, they just don't give themselves up?
Thank you, Annie. The problem is that those that are appointed into some of these important offices by the president, as it were, do not see the fact that they are in to serve. I think their perception is that they ought to be served. And so if they ought to be served, then it means that there is some kind of largesse that comes, you know, with that particular portfolio. And so if we imbibe in ourselves the principle that we are there to serve the people, and if you fail the people, the honest thing you have to do is just to resign. And that in itself is something that is lacking in our body politics. And I don't know if because there isn't much job opportunities in our system, I think that when you rise to that particular level, a level of a minister, you know, as it were, being a CEO and so on and so forth, you may, before you even got there, most likely you may have the wherewithal, as it were. So if it is a matter of principle that you agree to the fact that you are serving the people, I think that it would be the honest thing to do, and that is to quit. Unfortunately, you have the appointer, that is the president, as it were, in our system, as if he's not here, he's not seen.
Yeah.
And so my argument throughout yesterday has been that, look, if you have a president who believes that once you are loyal to him, he's loyal to you, that is his philosophy, then it will be very difficult for him to kick you out. And he's just adopted the philosophy of we sailing together and we sinking together. And if you have a president with such a philosophy, I think that that's the more reason why you still have non-performing ministers who have embarrassed the president, you know, uncountably. And that particular concept, as you asked me, that principle is not part of our body politics. It's just quite unfortunate.
So it is because of the lack of political willpower and these principles that the UK system has been carved in such a way that the system itself will deal with you. So you see that the Prime Minister has Conservatives, but the system is such that if the Conservatives do not support you, you cannot operate, which is why you saw ministers resigning. So Boris Johnson had no choice but to step down. And so if we do not have such a system, in fact, we have the UK system and have the US system, we say we call it the hybrid system. And so it's a bit of a confused state, which cannot force people to do, especially the leaders, to do what we require them to do.
Yes, it is true. Ours is an adoption of the Westminster and that of the executive presidency of the United States of America. I think that the next powerful tool is the media. The media ought to be frank because you are all part of the economy. And unfortunately, where we find ourselves now, you know, it is just quite unfortunate that the finance minister will have to be called upon to resign. Yes, it comes with some kind of integrity. It comes with some kind of backlash. It comes with some kind of shame and disgrace because the kinds of things you felt you would have been able to do, you've not been able to do that. and all the advices have fallen on deaf ears. And the kind of course you are chartering is something that has brought nothing but disaster for the entire nation. So I think that to get to the extent where parliamentarians, for example, are calling for a censure, as it were, and the president is still sitting idle, then it's as if the president is okay with whatever economy that is operating today. And it is just quite unfortunate. So you see, it should have gone down to principle. When in the previous regime, the Pru MP, Dr. Donko, who was then the power minister, said that if by the end of year 2015, he's not been able to solve the power crisis, he will resign. And believe you me, it was just some few months after 2015, that is 2016, then the power crisis got solved. But he resigned on principle. So we need such principles in our body politics. If you don't have that, that is the kind of problem. It's as if the finance ministry is a bona fide property of that particular person.
So we're talking two things here. There's one that the president has gone so long without reshuffling of ministers, and then there is the other where when a minister knows that he or she is underperforming, he just has to put in his resignation and leave the office. I mean, however, how does the media come in here? The media obviously can do reports as and when, but how do we come in here, as you mentioned? What specifically can we do to move leaders into action?
Yes, you need to do a lot of research and do comparative analysis. You need to let the citizenry know those who resign on even flimsiest of excuses, or in terms of, some of this minor, for example, Jifa Ativo, something of that sort happened by Brandon, and she never even had a stake in that. But as it were, on principle, she felt that she had failed the ministry and her president, as it were, she resigned honorably. So I think that the media ought to put excessive pressure, because every party that finds itself in government is thinking of the next election, and that is mostly the way they do things. So if you are thinking of the fortunes in the next elections, and you have the ordinary citizenry led by the media, which has done a lot of research, as it were, and they have done comparative analysis, and it appears that this is the most abysmally performing, finance minister in the Fourth Republic, for example, and is still at post, then obviously the president cannot escape the blame. The vice president, he may not be the appointer or the appointing authority, but since he is also the chairman of the economic management team, he is also not going to escape the flak, inclusive the finance minister himself. And even there are other several ministers who have been non-performing. And if the president is telling us that looking at food inflation alone, and you are still keeping somebody like Dr. Efriye as still your Greek minister, then there is something wrong somewhere. Something is not adding up. And the president is quiet, and he feels okay that you have such food inflation, which means that you have such a huge number of your population cut out in terms of what? Getting food to eat. Because things are so costly. So you need that change. The president ought to show us that he is in charge. And that is all what Ghanaians are calling on him to do.
Right.
And so I have seen some of the media houses, giving some pressure here and there, but the president is still yet to bat. It is just quite unfortunate. I don't know whether because he is exiting and he is going to do his second term, he's not bothered about whoever emerges as the leader of the party, and however they slag it out for the NDC in 2024 elections. I think it is inconsequential to him. If he's so minded, then obviously he will have done something about it.
Right.
Ghanaians need that kind of confidence.
Right.
And we need that new direction.
Right. Lecturer and political scientist Jonathan Asante there will speak with you as we continue with this analysis later on. Now let's do some of the stories. And Director of Local Government Decentralization and Rural Development at the Presidency, Dennis Miracles Abuaje, says the Nanado-led administration is the only government since 1992 to show clear cut signals of moving the country towards industrialization. Now, but for former Deputy Minister of Communications, Felix Kwakye Ofosu, says it is a mere fallacy. He added that the e-levy is not to widen tax net. He also said the e-levy introduction is an attempt to warn investors that the country is still fit for investment purposes. They both spoke on Good Morning Ghana.
Even if you look at the sub-Saharan Africa, Ghana is one of the countries raising the least of revenues. And yet we have the most of needs, that we need to provide for our people. And that really accounts to a lot of borrowing that we've been doing over the years. Because really, if you need to build roads and you have, let's say, 1,000 kilometers of roads to build, and yet you are receiving 1 million Ghana cedis, that means that you need to go and find the 29 million that you need to be able to construct that road for the people. Don't forget, building a country, it's dependent on the rate of development of every state is dependent on even the population that you have. If you go to a country where maybe there are 1 million people and they are contributing, let's say, 200,000 Ghana cedis, maybe the 200,000 will do so much for them because it's just 1 million. We have 30 million people that are contributing so little in terms of revenue. Very few of us are paying. A lot of it coming from those of us in the formal sector.
And it was not introduced because they wanted to widen the tax net. It is not true. What had happened was that because we had lost access to the international markets, they just wanted a measure to convince the investors that we were going to generate sufficient revenue to justify their continuous doing of business with us.
What's wrong with that?
What is wrong with that? They had boxed themselves into a tight corner through mismanagement of our economy. And they had lost the confidence of key stakeholders like investors. I'm talking about people who buy our bonds. So they did that as a way of giving some comfort and assurance to them that things will ease up. Will ease up. Now it has backfired badly, and the pressure that has come or that has been brought to bear on us is one of the reasons why they have run to the IMF, and I will explain presently. You see, if you talk about a tax that has a wide base and ropes in many people, it is VAT. It is indirect. I heard you say that if you want to widen the tax, then increase or broaden the base of those who pay direct taxes. That is true. But in fact, if you check the figures,
Yes.
the single largest contributor of revenue is VAT.
Yes.
Indeed, VAT, NHI, and Get Fund together.
You're still watching Newsbeat, and still coming up, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, Member of Parliament for North Tongue constituency, has been leading the cathedral campaign against procurement processes of the cathedral. Says as companies, our judgment day is coming for companies who did not go through the right procurement processes with regards to the building of the National Cathedral.
We want to serve notice that all of those companies that they are receiving phone calls, hey, come, we want to do a cathedral, come and do this, guys, come and do that, without recourse to the procurement laws of our country. We want to serve notice that Judgment Day is coming.
Welcome back to Newsbeat. Let's take some more stories. And Member of Parliament for North Tongue constituency, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, is warning companies who he believes have been unlawfully engaged in the construction of the National Cathedral to either pull out or face future legal actions. The warning by the ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee follows a response by the Public Procurement Authority that it has no knowledge on how the said companies were engaged to construct a monumental edifice.
We want to serve notice that all of those companies that they are receiving phone calls, hey, come, we want to do a cathedral, come and do this, guys, come and do that, without recourse to the procurement laws of our country. We want to serve notice that Judgment Day is coming. Already, we have filed a motion that is waiting for the Speaker's approval. We want a bipartisan probe, a full-scale parliamentary probe. We are also putting together all the documentation, and I can tell you that now it's very heavy, tons of documentation. Every single page is a scandal. It's a breach, it's an infraction, it's an illegality. And a day is coming that people will be made to answer. And all those who are in possession illegally of our tax funds will be made to refund all those monies back to the Ghanaian people. And we want to serve notice that this practice cannot continue. And the private sector, even international companies, because we know Rebade Company Limited is a JV made up of Ricardo Echa, Babisoti, and Disimoni. One will have really expected that they will be interested in protecting their international brand. These are well-established companies. And I am surprised that they will be agreeing to construct a project under these circumstances.
Now to some other stories. The Ghana Health Service has confirmed the presence of 2 suspected cases of Marburg virus in Ghana. It said the cases were found in the Ashanti region. Now, a statement from the health authority said the disease was suspected following the identification of 2 persons who met the case definition for an acute hemorrhage fever in 2 different locations in the Ashanti region. Blood samples were sent to the Noguchi Memorial Institute for medical research. Preliminary results suggest that the infection is due to the Marburg virus. According to the Ghana Health Service, no new cases have been reported. However, 34 contacts linked to the initial 2 cases have been traced and are currently under quarantine. Now, let's do some video wall information on this update. So, the Marburg virus affects both human and non-human primates. Now, it is transmitted through direct contact with blood fluids, blood and other discharges from the affected person or animal. It goes on to say that the incubation period for the disease is 2 to 21 days. Treatment is symptomatic. There is currently no vaccine available. So these are the symptoms. You have fever, blood, diarrhea, bleeding from gums, bleeding into the skin, bleeding into the eyes, and bleeding, bloody urine. Right. So that's just a bit of some information you have on the Marburg virus, just in case that you experience these symptoms. You want to rush to the hospital for some quick treatment. Now, some parents have raised concerns of a food shortage in some senior high schools. Several schools, including Ghana National College, Adisadel College, and St. Augustine, have all been reported to be facing food shortage. The Parent-Teacher Association of the schools are calling for immediate action to be taken to address the challenges. In an SOS audio currently in circulation, the parents raised concerns over the quality of food served to the wards in the affected schools. The Parents-Teacher Association chairman of Mfansipim, Monister Kwating, lamented that the situation was terrible. He disclosed that the students are taking porridge without milk, sugar, and bread, describing the food given to the students as horrible. They are asking for the schools to allow for their wards to return home until the matter is addressed. Meanwhile, efforts to reach the Ghana Education Service to respond to the concerns of the parents have proven futile. Metro News will continue to follow up on the issue and keep viewers updated. Well, quite a frustrating situation in the schools. We've been joined via phone by Divine Kpe, who is a research fellow with the Africa Education Watch, for more on this development. Divine, thank you for your time. Good afternoon to you. Let's find out from you. It's been a give and take affair where the students complain, teachers complain, and then the minister will come out to say there is no food shortage. What exactly should we do?
Oh, okay. Thanks for having me. I think I was informed about the interview beyond the teacher strike. I don't know it's about a food shortage, but this issue has been in the domain for a very long time now. And it's not the first time we are recording instances of food shortage in our schools, and it's quite unfortunate. It's one of the gaps that we have identified to be characterized the Free-Scenario High School implementation. It's one of the gaps that, because of the large numbers that are enrolled, we are witnessing occasional issues of food shortages in our school. And we believe this is mostly because government has not been releasing money to the Ministry of Education to be paid to the buffer stock, national buffer stock, so that they can pay the money to the food suppliers. So the problem is more about money to be paid to the food suppliers. Other than that, there will be regular supply of food in the various schools. So that's where the issue has to be addressed to. Government will need to find a sustainable way of providing money to the national buffer stock so that they can also pay the food suppliers on time. Other than that, we're going to be seeing recurrence of this issue.
So are the parents right to call for the fact that the students be asked to come home until the situation is sorted?
Well, because right now, the students that are in school, third year that are expecting to write their WASSCE, and then second year that have just resumed, I think they resumed less than 2 weeks ago. So if we are asking that students come home, I don't think that would be good, because just in August, I think 1st of August, they are starting their WASSCE, and they need to be in school to prepare adequately. So within the 1 month that is left for them to write their WASSCE, they need to be in school. I think we should find an earlier solution to the issue than them going to the house. The second years that are also in school, they just came, I think, last week, and it should not be safe asking them also to go back to the house again till the food issues are resolved. So government will rather need to act as fast as it could to release money so that the food supply could be regular in the school.
Now, if you can respond to the issue of the striking teachers. So what do you think should be government's priority in terms of settling the teachers? We know we have a situation, an economic situation. Government is going to IMF, obviously. Even if government is able to secure the amount it needs to settle the teachers of its COLA that is demanding, would it make sense that government pays attention to the educational sector, or maybe somewhere else?
All right, I've made a point that the 20% call is legitimate because if we juxtapose that with the high inflation rate we are witnessing in the country, almost 30%, then the 20% call is legitimate. Notwithstanding, with the action that at the time that we are in, it's a difficult moment that government is finding the economic challenge. Then the entire nation is being an issue that we have witnessed before, but quite very challenging this particular time. So in our demands too, we also have to be very flexible in our demand. I believe strongly that if government is to meet the 20% across board and not for only teachers, other workers will also come into us. Government may not be able to meet that. And so we will advise that the teacher unions will also be flexible with their demands so that when they go to the negotiation table, both the unions and then the government will be able to meet each other halfway so that academic work can resume as soon as possible, because we don't want to see students stay in their house for too long. If you look at it, they are just coming back from COVID break and they are trying to recover lessons that have been lost for almost 10 months of school closure across the globe. All schools are yet to recover from it. We have been told by.
Is it advisable for the students to continue to be in school as GES is directing?
I'm not sure it's advisable because for the students' safety, who is to ensure their safety in school? The teachers at home, and then they have directed the head teachers to be the one in school to open the school and then welcome the student. Right. A single head teacher cannot ensure the safety of the students, not at all. And why are they in school when academic work is not going on? So why are students going to school? What are they doing in the school? So it's just advisable that the school is shut.
Right. Divine Pay, thank you for speaking with us here on Newsbeat. He is with the Ghana Education Watch, Edu Watch, I mean. Now, let's do some politics. And owing to the New Patriotic Party's upcoming general elections, exactly a week today, some brewing tension among delegates and leadership of the party has requested the removal of all billboards containing the images of prospective candidates ahead of the elections. But how has this directive been enforced?
It was a tough battle between the various candidates who filed their nomination at the regional levels of the New Patriotic Party's wing. In the latest, a communique signed by the Director of Communications for the New Patriotic Party hazarded that the various candidates ahead of the party's national elections should desist from extravagant politicking after a council meeting earlier on Thursday, July 7, had stated, and also urged all candidate supporters and party members to observe any additional rules for a smooth and successful conference. Fast forward to the annual national delegate elections, the leadership of the party has also asked that all billboards of aspirants before the said date for the national elections to be removed. A decision which was arrived at after a council meeting with some leaders of the party before the slated date, July 15 to July 17, for the elections at the Accra Sports Stadium. How are delegates and aspirants responding to this directive? There will be more on this in the build-up to the national conference.
All right, Metro News will bring you more from the NPP elections. Let's take a breather. We'll be back with some more business news. Will be next.
Welcome back to Newsnight live on Metro TV. My name is Winston Taki. And out of first business story, the Bank of Ghana has indicated that it will appeal a court ruling directing the central bank to reverse the revocation of license of savings and loans company UniCredit in 2019.
The Bank of Ghana said it has instructed its lawyers to appeal the decision in the interest of promoting financial stability in the country. The Court of Appeal, in its ruling yesterday, July 7, described the Bank of Ghana's decision to revoke the license of UniCredit as wrong because the regulator did not go through the right procedure in taking the action. Sources close to the Bank of Ghana noted that it has asked the receiver of UniCredit to continue to perform its statutory functions while appeal processes are filed by the central bank. By the ruling, the Court of Appeal reversed the earlier decision of the Human Rights Court dated 18th March 2021, which held that the Bank of Ghana followed the relevant laws and due process in revoking the license of UniCredit Ghana. The Court of Appeal declared as unlawful the decision by the Bank of Ghana to revoke the license of UniCredit Savings and Loans. Meanwhile, a financial management consultant, Christian Takijan, believes the banking sector cleanup has made the banking sector more vibrant.
There were 22 other institutions that were involved in each had got a PEP case. So if any of them really had any other issue, felt that it wasn't right, Ghana had done that, I'm sure they could have taken the route that UniCredit did by resorting to the law court. So for me, it doesn't really speak anything. BOG being a regulator, once it felt that it had to do a cleanup to restore confidence in the Ghanaian banking sector landscape, and we will say the exercise actually led to a more vibrant institutions that we have now. They are more liquid, they are robust, as you say. And so whichever argument that you raised, for me, was really a very cause so far as we have vibrant institutions, more than what we used to have in 2019.
Now, away from that, the value of global trade rose to a record $7.7 trillion in the first quarter of 2022, an increase of about $1 trillion relative to the quarter one of 2021.
The growth, which represents a rise of about $250 million to quarter four of 2021, is fueled by rising commodity prices as trade volumes have increased to a much lower extent Though expected to remain positive, trade growth has continued to slow during Q2 of 2022. It adds that rising interest rates and the wheeling down of economic stimulus packages will likely have a negative impact on trade volumes for the rest of 2022. Volatility in commodity prices and geopolitical factors will also continue to make trade development uncertain. According to the report, trade growth rates in the first quarter of 2022 remain strong across all geographic regions, although somewhat lower in East Asia and Pacific regions. Export growth has been generally stronger in commodity exporting regions as commodity prices increased. Trade in merchandise goods reached about $6.1 trillion, an increase of about 25% to about 3.6% by December 2021. The report says the evolution of world trade for the remainder of 2022 is likely to be affected by slower than expected economic growth due to rising interest rates, inflationary pressure, and concerns over debt sustainability in many economies. The report states that the war in Ukraine is affecting international trade by putting further upward pressure on the international prices of energy and primary commodities.
That'll be all for business here on Newsbeat. My name is Winston Taki. Sports is up next.
My name is Feo John Quartier, and it's time for sports. Former FIFA President Sepp Blatter and Vice President Michel Platini have both been found not guilty following their trial in Switzerland.
I never believed that I have done something wrong in my life which goes to such a court. Naturally, nobody is perfect, but in the case of my job, my work, 44 years working in FIFA, for me is so important. It's so important that this case has been settled on the highest Swiss level. Definitely, because during 7 years I was always under pressure because there was a court case opened against me. 7 years. It looked like I've been in preventive, and now it's finished, so I'm happy.
Sepp Blatter is the former president of the football governing body FIFA, not found guilty by a Swiss court of corruption. Well, meanwhile, former Ghana international Hasselhoff legend Mohamed Polo has indicated that the poor standard of the Ghana Premier League is not helping the local players' quest for national team call-ups.
Everybody wants to go outside before he's called to the national. Can you believe it? No player, national league, our professional league, can fit in Black Star proper. Why should that happen? Are they playing on a different terrain? It shows that the standard is down, and it is clear. If the clubs who are going to Africa cannot make it, there is a problem. How do they make it in the These are some. We have some players, who were playing here and they were able to make it straight to the World Cup. 2006, we have some of them, about 3 or 4 of them. And even the subsequent ones, we've gone there 3 times. They were there, they were playing here. You understand? It shows that there is something technically wrong.
As Ghana international Mohamed Polo over there, not happy with the standard of the Ghana Premier League. That's your sports. My name is Feo John Quartier. Up next, Showbiz.
That's our first entertainment story. Renowned Ghanaian producer Mix Master Ghazi last night officially opened the headquarters for his 2MG record label. The headquarters located at East Legon has ultra-modern studios and offices for operations. Here is a report at the event last night.
The official opening of the headquarters of the 2MG record label, owned by producer Mix Master Ghazi, saw several showbiz personalities in attendance, including colleague producers, artists, managers, industry stakeholders, and fans. Mr. Ghazi, who is arguably one of Ghana's top producers, was excited to put in such investment into the music industry in Ghana.
Music is something that I've seen further, this is what we are going to. I started with a few people, but some people let me go and do business manager. But this is me, so I can't stop.
The facility has 3 recording studios, including a live band setup, a studio for videos, and offices for the label. Metro News caught up with some of the showbiz personalities who came to support him.
I mean, it's been great. It's been a smooth vibe between us, more family and business side as well. Yeah. It adds value. The thing is that, like, as an artist onto a label, if the label is not investing, you, the artist, you are not interested in working. Nothing is pushing you to even put your best in. But as you see the label is working and investing, you also feel like, yeah, I gotta go hard.
Master Ghazi has actually reached out to me from long ago and expressed his love and gratitude and support for me. So Charlie pulling up was necessary, and him and I actually have some things in the works coming in the pipeline. So you guys will stay tuned and give that. But yeah, big love out to Master Ghazi. I want to wish him a big happy birthday, and I want to say bless up for the support, the continuous love and support from you, and not just towards me, just towards all the other creators which you've also given a chance to collaborate with and make some mad
There were performances from 2MG signee, Lyrical Joe, Jupiter, Herman Suede, among others.
Now, Burna Boy is injecting his signature Afrofusion vibes into our veins this summer with his latest album, Love Damini, which he released on Thursday, July 7th via Atlantic Records' Spaceship Collective Warner Music. Love Damini arrives just days after the superstar's 31st birthday on July 2nd. He previously released singles Kilometer and Last Last, the later of which he debuted at his sold-out One Night in Space show in New York City's Madison Square Garden in April. The African giant performed both songs at the 2022 Billboard Music Awards in Las Vegas MMG Garden Arena the following month. Love Damini is a follow-up to Burna Boy's 2020 album Twice as Tall, which reached #1 on the World Albums chart and debuted at number 54 on the all-genre Billboard 200. Well, that's it for entertainment news on Newsbeat. My name is Harriet Addy. Up next is international news.
And now on the international front, a press conference has begun at Nara Medical University Hospital, where former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was pronounced dead after being shot while giving a campaign speech. A doctor says medics spent 4.5 hours treating Abe. They tried to stop the bleeding and carried out a blood transfusion using more than 100 units of blood. He also confirmed there were 2 wounds believed to be bullet wounds, but he said doctors could not find bullets during the surgery. Well, that's what we have for you this afternoon on Newsbeat. It came to you live from the Akiabwa Hima studio at North Ridge, and we're streaming live on Facebook as well as Metro TV GA. Join us at 2 for Good Afternoon Ghana, 4 News Flash, and 7 with News Night. Thank you so much for watching.